After the War of 1812 and the First Creek War, the Southern Indians and the whites had settled down, often very close to one another, and were living in peace in a natural environment which seemed to have enough for all of them. They began to see common problems. Friendships developed. White men were allowed to visit the Indian communities, and Indians often were guests in white homes. Frontier figures like Davy Crockett and Sam Houston came out of this setting, and both, unlike Jackson, became lifelong friends of the Indian. Jackson was fucking horrible. He was set on creating as much chaos, as much fraud, as much destruction and genocide for the indigenous population because he was benefiting immensely. He was making so much money off of this. Every time that they pushed people away, he was gaining land and he was buying up property. The forces that led to removal did not come. Van Every insists from the poor white frontiersmen who were neighbors of the Indians. They came from industrialization and commerce, the growth of populations, of railroads and cities, the rise in value of land, and the greed of businessmen. Money. It's always about fucking money. As for the poor white frontiersman, he played the part of pawn, pushed into the first violent encounters, but soon dispensable. This is, again, another theme. The poor white people, and the poor white man especially, he was being used by the elites to do the dirty work. There had been 3 voluntary Cherokee migrations westward into the beautiful wooded country of Arkansas, but there the Indians found themselves almost immediately surrounded and penetrated by white settlers, hunter and trappers. These white settlers would not stop encroaching on the indigenous populations. Even when the indigenous populations agreed with the American government, these white settlers would still take from that. It is literally what we are seeing right now with Israel and Palestine. They're just nonstop. They can't get enough. They have to have everything. With 17,000 Cherokees surrounded by 900,000 whites in Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee, the Cherokees decided that survival required adaptation to the white man's world. They became farmers, blacksmiths, carpenters, masons, owners of property. A census of 1826 showed 22,000 cattle, 7,600 horses. They had a bunch of things here. The Cherokees' language, heavily poetic, metaphorical, beautifully expressive, supplemented by dance, drama, and ritual, had always been a language of voice and gesture. Now their chief, Sequoyah, invented a written language which thousands learned.